happen. It is so hard to even think about that. And it wasn't just that we were going through it. Our neighbors, you could hear them down the street. I was getting phone calls. Is there anybody that you can think of to send to help? Because this water is coming so fast, and we're just trying to salvage a few things. And then you get a feeling of hopelessness. I have no more energy to expend on this, emotional or physical. And the water's going to do what the water's going to do, and you just watch it. And it's devastating. It is devastating for people. And there are people who have still, after a year later, have not been back to their homes that they built with love and care, that they spent wonderful evenings with their family on these warm things. And, you know, in a neighborhood where I live, you hear laughter all summer long because people are on the river, you know, and that's not coming from those homes anymore. And they have lost not only the structure, but they've lost the emotional safety of something that is so dear to them and so dear to their families. So it was devastating. I know a lot of words. Devastating is even not the right one.
April 1st through the 6th was a historic weather event for the lower Mississippi Valley, Ohio River Valley. Central Kentucky took a major impact on tornadoes, excessive rain, and then eventually flooding. Some areas of Kentucky saw between 10 and 15 inches of rain. We had officially about 8.5 inches of rain for many parts of Franklin County.
Then unfortunately, middle of the night, things really changed. The numbers changed, and that's when it really got serious. People were stranded, and we really had to act together to make sure everybody was going to be safe to get through this. We missed a 1938 flood by just an inch. You know, I never thought in this position that we'd be dealing with such a horrific storm. When the governor said that we have 5 states coming with boats to rescue people, we knew it was going to be a very, very tough situation.
So as the emergency management director, you know, I bring together all of the city and county departments and organizations, outside organizations, the governments, the other departments that assist the city and county. We are the capital, so we had a lot of state agencies, and we bring them together in our emergency operations center. We stepped that up about April 5th, and we ran about 12 days. We ran about to the 18th.
The Kentucky River runs right through our jurisdiction. All of our historic districts are partially encapsulated by the flood zone. So anytime we're impacted by floods, our downtown is heavily impacted. Even though part of it, South Frankfort, is protected by our flood wall.
What we call the North Frankfort, and then eventually a flood wall on South Frankfort. And those are supposed to be protected to roughly 50 feet elevation on a river flood. And we were at 48.3, so we were almost to the top of that, what I always say the bathtub level. And we were very concerned, and we started preparations for flooding in the low-lying areas of South Frankfort and all of downtown and Home Street.
The thing about Franklin County is that we are a water town. The Kentucky River flows right in the middle of our downtown. We have the Elkhorn Creek, Benson Valley Creek. So people know that live near the water's edge what typically is going to happen during a storm. Most everybody that knew if they were going to get a little bit of precipitation in their basement moved everything to the first floor so it would be safe, and they would be able to just kind of clean their basements out per se. But unfortunately, in the middle of the night, the National Weather Service changed things. That's when things got serious.
Going to be prepared for evacuation of 1,000 people, a lot. And you know, all the systems held. They worked. Pumps worked. The walls held. The levees held, and we were very much protected. Unlike 1937 and 1978 floods that flooded downtown in South Frankfort and caused, you know, substantially more damage.
When you're dealing with a storm like this, things happen quick. A couple days prior to the flooding, we had flash flooding. It happened very, very quickly. Unfortunately, one morning, a 9-year-old was swept off his feet and he lost his life on the way to school. It was a tragic, tragic loss for our community, and he will be missed forever.
And then after that, we were really pushing safety, so we were successful, and then we had no further drownings. A lot of health concerns with flooding, drownings, health issues. Worked with the health department, making sure everyone stayed safe around the water, the mud, and stuff.
I will say, going through the storm, it was pretty amazing how many people came together to work. Not only did city and county governments work together hand in hand, but we also had the state government and federal agencies here. At any time, there was probably 30 people talking about what we need to do and what we need to do next. So I could not be prouder of this community. I could not be prouder of citizens helping each other. People were here for weeks and months helping people clean out their homes, doing whatever they needed to do, and they didn't even know each other.
I'm the first district magistrate here in Franklin County, and that covers the bulk of the area along the Kentucky River, downtown as well as out into the county. But I had some personal experience with the flood as our home was flooded and my husband's business was flooded. So the April 2025 flooding in Frankfort devastated and delivered a devastating blow to the community. It impacted families, it impacted businesses, public infrastructure, and all of that in ways that will be felt for years to come.
And I tell everybody in Franklin County got flooded. The whole county got flooded, but as water goes downhill, our creeks and the Kentucky River Basin were definitely the most hard hit. The Elkhorn Creek, we were really close out there on some severe flooding. We were stayed in minor, moderate flooding areas out there, so we were protected. We had a benefit. This was kind of off season for our outdoor activities, so we were protected there.
My experience in particular is a bit unique in this sense because I both worked through the flood as floodplain coordinator and also experienced damage to my home as part of it. So I got to work through the flood permitting and flood rebuild process both as a regulator and holding hands and helping people through it, as well as getting to live through that myself.
I mean, we waded out through flood water at our house and chained our gas tank, our propane tank, to a tree so it wouldn't float off. As we woke up on April the 5th or the 6th, water wasn't supposed to be at the level it was at our house. And we looked out, it was 5:30 in the morning, and we saw water in our front yard. Water should never be in our front yard. I mean, if it is there, it is really, really high. We throw on our boots, I put on my rain boots, and I step outside to run over to the garage to start moving things that we'd moved out of our house and put them into our standalone garage, thinking that it was going to be safe. As soon as I stepped down to the front porch, I stepped down in that water, and the water was up waist high already on me, still coming up. So the rain boots didn't even matter. It was dark. We didn't know. You don't know what's under that water. You don't know if there's a log. You don't know if there are ropes under there ready to pull you under.
The weekend that the flood started, I got pulled into an emergency management meeting, and I was still relatively new to the job in Franklin County and didn't have a lot of floodplain management experience, didn't really know a lot about flooding. So I was a little bit surprised to be in that room with a lot of people who really know a lot about emergency response and that kind of thing. And we were looking at all of these maps and things, and it was kind of surreal.
I think the city and the county really kind of got on the job in reaction to the flood and in preparation for the flood, and a whole lot of people put in a ton of hours those first few weeks.
The county fortunately has a bagging machine where we were able to very quickly work with our counterparts in the city to get some sandbags up along St. Clair Street, and that was a wonderful thing to protect those local businesses and local services.
As I mentioned, I was impacted personally, so I was in and out of touch in the office during the immediate aftermath, while my folks were doing what we typically do during any moderate flood, which is go out, do damage assessments initially, make contact with folks, be available in the neighborhood to answer questions, start as people begin to put together their plans to come back, to make sure they've got contact info with us and we can help walk them through the permitting.
one of the first things that happened after the waters receded was that there were bank slides happening. I think that's in the picture behind me. And I went out into the field with the building inspector to see what was going on with this bank movement, and we had to tell some people that they couldn't go back into their homes right away. So that was really challenging to have those conversations and to think that these people are hoping to go back in and clean things up, and that they may not be able to do that for a while.
We did, as a result of the flood, about 56 flood damage related permits in 2026, which is exponentially more than we would typically do. I mean, in a normal year, I might process a half a dozen flood permits. And this year was just a long line for most of the year. With everything we do with planning, and flood is just another wrinkle, but it appears like a whole lot of paperwork, and people kind of get glossed over, particularly when they're already not in a good place dealing with a whole lot. And so we would just work with them immediately, get that to the state. The state's response time, in my experience, post-flood was really, really good. We were able to turn permits around most of the time in about 48 hours, which anybody that has been used to doing the flood permitting with the state, historically, that is not always the case.
I think probably one of the biggest challenges that may not be considered is that life goes on, and the work goes on, the everyday regular job duties and things that we have in the county, the services and resources and things like that, they don't change. So even though we have a major disaster, a 100-year flood, we still have the other constituents in our community that we have to also be concerned about. So while we're trying to navigate all the things that come with a 100-year flood, we also have to remember our day-to-day activities and personnel and the folks in the community, and make sure that they're not being forgotten as well.
Critical infrastructure was also impacted. Roads, utilities, public facilities, and the emergency response to those efforts continued on for quite some time.
Wilkinson Boulevard and Buffalo Trace Distillery entirely flooded. One of our great big economic issues was them in that they lost all facilities and had to shut down for several weeks to a month entirely. Roughly 800 plus employees full time, so that's a great big hit on our payroll, if you want to call it occupational tax, but a big hit on their corporation.
One water line that was broken in the Farmdale area that they served cost $50,000 to repair one water line, which was under a roadway. And so think about all of the other infrastructure that we know was impacted. Roadways alone and some of the emergency costs were in excess of $250,000. Those figures are climbing as we still continue to get data in to support that information.
For instance, this courthouse next door to us, the Franklin County Courthouse, is in a flood-prone area. We thought it was protected. We found out it wasn't. So, crystal ball, we can't go back and know those things. There are certain infrastructures that are right along the river, the water intake for the plant board and the sewer department. We can't change those. They're going to be there.
The courthouse alone at this point has $8.2 million of repair efforts just on one building here. That's the building as well as the contents. All of those costs were borne by Franklin County government, and we continue to await assistance from the federal government.
Big thing now is what they call buyouts. We're going through city and county buyouts. We've done this in other areas in previous flood events. We just simply buy those properties that are in low-lying areas that are subject to repetitive flooding. It saves on structures. It saves on people having to have shelter, moving, cleanups, and things like that. So,
now the physical damage, certainly it continues to be evident, but the emotional toll taken on our community, there's no way that can be overstated. Families have not just lost property, but they lost a sense of security through all this.
We looked at it right when it happened, and we knew we were going to be in for a long-term recovery.
So one of the biggest things that I'll probably remember about this flood is how many people reached out to us. My phone was ringing around the clock other judges from other communities. One judge from Eastern Kentucky had supplies left over from their disaster the year prior, and he showed up with a semi full of supplies. So I am just amazed how many people in this great state of Kentucky pulled together, came here, literally came here with supplies, with advice. How can we help? What do you need? And for me, that was one of the biggest things that helped us get through this disaster. So I remember one evening in the middle of the night, we were all together, and one of the things the state FEMA agent told me, she said, dealing with the storm is one thing, but the biggest thing is going to be the cleanup and the rebuild a year later. And that's where we are today. It's been over a year. People are still rebuilding their homes. Franklin County is doing a big buyout program where 36 homes will be demolished and people are going to be moving. So I think it's important for people to realize the storm was a storm, but the ones that were affected, roughly 500 people and families were affected, in addition to businesses, they're still rebuilding.
But in the face of the disaster, we've witnessed so much resilience here in our community and compassion. You've got neighbors helping neighbors, and that continues today. Volunteers stepped up from our own community and outside of our community and poured in and gave a sense of calm at a time when people really needed that.
You start cleaning up and tearing stuff out and get your project going, and eventually, you kind of need that community around because everybody, you get tired, you get frustrated, you're ready to be done, and you just got to keep going. It's kind of interesting. You get so busy in the rebuild that you spend so much time just focusing on the project, manage the project, make decisions, keep moving. And it really, at least for me, wasn't until we got done and I had a minute to actually sit back and look at photos and remember, oh wow, this was really bad. But at the time, here we are, so you deal with it.
Can't say enough good things about our partnerships all across the board with the community support that we had.
It was basically 24 hours a day. The mayor and I were together, and it was moving fast. I can't say enough good things about the state and their response, and FEMA and American Red Cross and everybody that was here to kind of help coach us through it. We've never been through anything like this. So I think one of the biggest things that we realized is we need to communicate.
FEMA was a great partner. They did a lot of work in Franklin County, getting our folks back in their homes, back into shelter.
Biggest thing was teamwork. It was really, really great to see how everyone came together in the city and the county and amongst all the different divisions, having FEMA come in and the help that they were able to provide, and all of the other entities that came in and provided assistance throughout the whole process.
So as the storm was coming, we realized really quick we need to communicate with our citizens. Frankfort's a little different. Some people read the newspaper, some people watch the local cable channel, and about 60% are on social media. So the mayor and I came together and we decided let's start giving 2 daily updates to let people know what was going on before the storm happened, as it was happening, and then after it happened. So I think that was very, very helpful to let our citizens know, especially the ones that were affected, potentially where food banks were, where they could go get shovels and shop vacs to clean their homes afterwards. So we did that for weeks, literally weeks. And I do think that helped our community. It kept people informed during a really, really, really tough time. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody that was involved in making that happen.
How we plan for major catastrophic flooding long term, we're going to have to find other ways to get water to us, other ways to get food to us. FEMA and State Emergency Management are great partners for bringing those assets, food, water, and shelter in.
And then now moving forward, we have all of these ideas for things that we can do to improve our regulations and improve how we do permitting to make hopefully the next disaster, which hopefully won't be for a very long time, less impactful on the day-to-day lives of the people who live in Franklin County.
A few weeks after the flood, we got together and we talked about things like what did we do well and what can we do better. And I think that's important for any community that goes through something like this to do. Frankfort is a river town. It cuts right in the middle of us. So we know that our river will flood again. It's just when. So I do think we did social media well, we communicated well, but we can always do better. We're looking at things like a one-call system that will text everybody to make sure that they know things are happening. We're looking at putting gauges on our rivers and our creeks. So if it gets to a certain level, people are notified.
We weren't present 50 years ago to see where things flooded. We've learned some areas that flood sooner and later. Depths change a little bit with movements. We work with the National Weather Service to improve inundation mappings, water alerts, a whole lot more newer technologies out there that we can get information to people now.
I think some of the lessons would be how things can change so quickly. A lot of people forget that just a month prior or 2 months prior, we already had a flood. And in Franklin County, to have a flood, it used to be a once every 10-year experience here in this county. Last year we had a 39-foot flood in February, and then we turn around in April and have a major flood. And so things change quickly, especially when you're in a river town like this. And so you just kind of have to be prepared to adjust on the fly and handle things as they come up, and depend on other people. Seeing all of the cooperation between agencies was fantastic. Bringing all those key people into one room so that we could discuss what resources we had, what did we need, and work together to really try to make this as good of an experience as we could, because we couldn't do it alone.